Welcome back, Lisa Rinna. I've missed you so much since your family packed their bags, loaded them in your mouth, and skipped town.
And does it match the blood you found inside Mr. Simpson's Bronco?
Yes, it's all from the same individual.
Then you mean all this time we could have been friends?
Judges your score.
Tell us what you don't like about yourself.
I'd like to go to Dreamland.
I'll take you there.
Who are you?
I'm Constance Langdon, and this is my fucking house.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Ryan Murphy Project, a podcast where we take an in-depth look at the life and career of Ryan Murphy. I'm Eric Wilson.
And I'm Andrew Leon.
Did I throw you this week by doing last name?
And you're right. Yes, you did. I was like, oh, okay, Andrew Leon.
Yeah.
But you're right. I do get excited when I'm like, Andrew Leon. I just like pop up. I'm like, all happy about it.
It's the start of another new adventure here on the podcast.
I know.
We're excited to talk about it.
I want everybody to know that Eric is actually recording this by just one candle lit.
That's true. So I didn't do that because this was a spooky episode. I did that just because I woke up like an hour and a half ago. And my eyes are still adjusting to daylight. And my light here in my little office thing is really bright. So I just lit
well, just
so I just
so
lit
everyone
a candle.
knows it's 2 p.m. over there. So
wow.
So
a minute into the show and you're
candle.
Just dragging me. But the candle actually
well, no,
it's I think it's fitting, and it's great ambiance in here. I know you're jealous because your room's so bright, but the ambiance over here is fire. Literally.
I wish I could have like some sort of fog for this like spooky American Horror Story episode, because I am actually really excited to talk about this. Probably probably at the level of excitement that you were for the Glee episode last week.
Yeah. Actually, I have a fog machine. I can get it.
Oh. It wouldn't... Okay.
But you'd see it. You'd be like, ooh, fog. I wish there was like a fog zoom effect.
I would see it. Oh my god. Once I figure out how to do the zoom effects, we'll be on that.
Yeah. We will have the best
of
zoom effects just for each other.
In the background.
So yeah, this week it's week 2 still. It's the end of week 2, but it's our 4th review and recap. And this week we're doing another exciting one, another fundamental show to our friendship, American Horror Story.
Very true. Have you seen it multiple times? Because I for some reason I'm like, I have seen this many times and I don't know.
Yeah,
why.
absolutely. The Glee pilot and the American Horror Story pilot are probably 2 of the pilots I've watched most in my entire life.
Do you think that we've watched them a lot together?
Probably, yeah.
I think we have. Because I was just like, I still found things that surprised me in the episode, or I'm like, oh, okay, I'm picking up on that. But I'm like, I have watched this multiple times.
Yeah, for sure.
Since the 10 years it came out, or however long it's been.
Yeah, because every other episode, especially popular in Nip Tuck, I am like writing really quickly just to try and stay in the show, and so I don't miss anything.
No, you're right.
But with American Horror Story, I'm like, okay, as soon as someone pops on screen, I'm like, okay, this is the scene where she does this, and then she does that, and then this bitch walks in.
I know. I have that a lot too. I'm like, then she walks in and chews up the scenery.
That's in every Ryan Murphy script, and then she walks in.
So how did Ryan come up with this?
Okay, let me read some of the conception information here on Wikipedia, which will be, our main source here on the show, because we're true journalists.
Now all we need is just like a journalist hat when we read these things from Wikipedia.
A little tag sticking out. Creators Murphy and Falchuk began working on American Horror Story before their Fox series Glee began production. So to me, this sounds like they started working on the idea before Glee started and after Nip Tuck, or during Nip Tuck, because Ryan and Brad worked on Nip Tuck together.
Yeah,
but it's weird that it came out.
How it sounds to me too.
It's weird that it came out 2 years after Glee started. That's interesting.
I'm sure then executives are just like, wow, he really made this hit on Fox and FX, which is the network American Horror Story runs on, so it's some sort of sister relationship. So I'm sure they're like, okay, yeah,
try this
you
too.
Glee guy, you could do a horror story. You're like, okay.
Yeah. It goes on to say, Murphy wanted to do the opposite of what he had done previously and thus began his work on the series. He stated, I went from Nip Tuck to Glee, so it made sense that I wanted to do something challenging and dark. And I always have loved, as Brad has, the horror genre. So it just was natural for me. Falchuk was intrigued by the idea of putting a different angle on the horror genre, stating that their main goal in creating the series was to scare viewers. You want people to be a little off balance afterwards, he said. Production on the series began in April 2011. In July 2011, FX officially announced that the project had been picked up to become a full series that would air in the fall. From the beginning, Murphy and Falchuk planned that each season of the series would tell a different story. At the 2013 Paley Fest, Falchuk compared the series to horror films. It does demand a little bit of compassion at the end because you fall in love with these characters in a different way than you would in a movie, he said. If you want to kill everybody in a movie except one person, you can kind of get away with that. But if you're looking to do a horror show, you have a different responsibility to the characters because the audience has a different affection to them.
I agree with that. You know, in like most television shows, you have this was 12 episodes. So you have 12 hours to fall in love with Connie.
Yeah.
But then in a horror movie, you have, 2 hours to fall in love with someone and then they could die.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Murphy then explained the process of planning a series season takes about a year. We come up with the story first and then we come up with the characters, he said. It's a repertory company, so we'll move people around and sometimes there won't be a role for somebody. Like when we started the second season, I really had no idea that Dylan McDermott would be the person to play Sarah's son, but the deeper we got, I thought that would work great.
And that's another thing worth noting. One of the this I think really started the public consciousness awareness of Ryan just recycling actors and actresses. This is more like purposeful, because then there's certain times that Sarah plays this character to kind of mirrors her character from season whatever.
Which I think,
but just as far as like making a troupe that he uses and kind of just like plugs those, you'd be like, you available?
Yeah.
All right, you come here for this season, whatever.
Yeah, I think honestly that's truly one of the most fascinating and likable things about him. One of the things I like most about him is that he does have this like cast of characters that he just pulls from and puts in his series, and he sticks with them, and maybe because also that gives us a peek into who he doesn't like anymore. You know?
I know. I think the same thing. I totally.
Because even like
the exact same.
Even
thing.
like really small people that were on Glee, like Puck's younger brother, even he was in a season of American Horror Story. You know, so. There's small people that he's like, oh, he's a good actor. He would be good for the one episode that we need him in. You know, he gets killed off. Like Darren Criss was in Hotel for one episode. You know what I mean? So.
Oh, he was.
And then you look back and you're like, he never worked with Chris Colfer again. I would have thought that, John Hughes did the same thing. You know what I mean? And I think that's why I like John Hughes as well. Like John Hughes and Ryan Murphy are like my two, guys. But John Hughes did the same thing with Molly Ringwald and the fucking guy from the cop show, Michael Hall, is that his name? But those two, he saw so much in Anthony Michael Hall. That's his name, Anthony Michael Hall. He saw so much of himself in Anthony Michael Hall that he kept casting him, and he really liked Molly Ringwald, borderline in a weird way. And he kept casting her. So it's kind of the same that Ryan does with Darren and with Sarah and with Jessica. And I like that. I don't know if it's like a loyalty thing or I don't know what it is, but it fascinates me and it's something that really makes me like them more.
Yeah. It makes me feel like I'm a part of that family too.
Yeah.
And then as American Horror Story progresses, obviously Ryan gets more projects and then he starts bringing people in from those projects too. Like after American Crime Story, he brought in Cuba Gooding Jr. for a season, and then who did he bring in from Pose? Her name is escaping.
Oh, Angelica Ross.
Yeah, and then Angelica Ross was just in the last season.
She's going to be in season 10 as well. That's something we need to talk about as well. So there's 9 seasons of American Horror Story, and the 10th was supposed to be filmed this year. And the 10th was apparently, he started releasing hints to the theme, which we always love, He knows we fucking love it.
Eat it up.
And the theme was something set in like a beach town in like New England, possibly mermaid themed. But because of COVID-19, not to be confused with the other COVIDs, they had to shut down production.
If somebody's listening in the future,
Yeah.
like, COVID-37, oh God forbid, we'll be like,
These are
okay.
evergreen episodes, These can be listened to decades from now. We'll still be able to follow along.
I know.
But because of COVID-19 in the year 2020 of our Lord and Savior, Angelica Ross, they had to shut down production.
It's like we shut down.
Yeah.
They were filming in P-Town too, Providence Town.
Yeah.
But they can't, it's really, the story
Gays
is
love
specific.
their P-Town.
I know, of course it's there.
Ryan Murphy was like, yeah, we'll just film in P-Town this
Just go
summer.
to P-Town late
Fucking
March.
bitch.
It's not too touristy late March, but I know a great bed and breakfast.
Yeah, of course he does.
So they shut down. So basically it's seeming like we're not going to get an American Horror Story this year.
Yes. Now, obviously we're hopefully going to cover every season, but we're here to start with season 1, which was Murder House.
Yep.
Do you want to give us a little overview of who's in this episode, kind of a quick rundown of what the episode's about?
So the season is about the Harmon family. It's centered around Ben Harmon, played by Dylan McDermott, at his sexiest. Connie Britton as Vivian Harmon with her amazing hair. And then I never know how to pronounce her name correctly, but Violet Harmon is played by
Taissa Farmiga.
Ooh, that was good. I could never. And then, of course, we have Jessica Lange playing Constance Langdon. So those are and of course, how we forget Evan Peters as Tate Langdon. This is my first time ever seeing Evan. I'm pretty sure I never had seen him in anything else, and so then he just kind of pops up tweaking out.
He was in, when I was little, there's a Disney Channel show called Phil of the Future.
Oh, okay. Phil was cute.
Phil was like one of my first big crushes.
Phil was so
for
cute
sure.
to crush on. Yeah.
As like a little boy, I was like, fuck yes. Take me to the future, Phil. And Evan Peters played his best friend in that show.
Oh, shut up. Really? Okay.
Yeah. But I didn't realize that until after the fact, because obviously I didn't know who Evan Peters was at the time. But looking back, I remembered him from that. Yeah.
Yeah, so this season...
this was kind of my first time, too.
I got you. So this season kind of is centered around the murder house. So kind of like this old, not Victorian, I don't know, sort of Art Deco-y style house made in the 1920s in Los Angeles. And then all of the crazy ghosts that live inside of it.
Wait, can we talk about the fact that we've been to the murder house together?
Oh my God, we did. Yeah, when I was visiting Eric in LA, we went to the murder house because it is that iconic.
And then we stood outside and played the theme song.
I forgot we did that. We are so that.
And twerked on the fence.
Oh my God. Yeah, because there's a fence wrapped around the house because everyone goes there. I would never buy that house and actually live there. Oh my God.
It's used in a lot of different TV shows. It's in Buffy. I forget what else it's in, but it's used a bunch.
Well, it's a beautiful, really interesting looking house. Yeah. So I could see.
Yeah, it's the perfect house for this story too.
So this episode starts off. The Harmon family moves from Boston to Los Angeles to recover from Vivian's miscarriage and Father Ben's infidelity with one of his students. Their daughter Violet starts a new school only to be terrorized by a group of girls. The family deals with intrusive neighbors such as Constance Langdon, played by Jessica Lange, and her daughter Addie. Let's stop there as far as the summary goes.
Let's get into the breakdown. This episode is 50 minutes. And it's written by Brad and Ryan, as we mentioned, and it's directed by Ryan, who we love his directing.
Yeah. I purposely tried to look at the direction notes in this episode too. For instance, we open with just like this, with the title card that says 1978, and then this like beautiful sort of like checking out sweeping shot of the house itself.
Yeah, and I think that's an important opening shot because the house is a character. The house is really
Yes,
the main
very
character.
much.
Right? It's the character you see at the beginning. It's the character that's still standing at the end.
True. It's very true.
So it's important to establish that. And I don't think you obviously realize that in the beginning, how important the house is to become. But this whole first 10 minutes of the show, this whole intro is just phenomenal, I think. But we open on Addie outside, and she's just staring at the house. It's a young Addie. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I have to say, like, Ryan Murphy does a great job at representing the Down syndrome community in his work. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he has any in Nip Tuck or Popular, but Glee, there's 3. And in American Horror Story, Jamie Brewer comes back a couple times.
Yeah, she does.
Who plays Adelaide. So I think that's you know, he uses them in a way that is both empowering to them, I think, because it's a character they don't normally get to play. You know, especially Jamie Brewer, who was in this season, and she's also in a couple other seasons, right?
Yeah. Let me see. So she is in this season. She is in season 3 as well, and she's in The Coven. Mm-hmm. She's a guest star for like maybe 2 episodes in Freak Show, and then she is in Apocalypse, but not too much either. She has like a kind of she kind of pops up, but it's always great to see her too. Yeah. And then she, just like every other actor, gets to play someone different and fun and new. And I think that she does a really good job here, too. Yeah. This in Coven, she does a really good job. Yes, oh, that's right, because in Apocalypse, she's like, she's with Papa Legba. She's just, she's still in hell. Yeah, you know, and she kind of pops up being like this real bad, like, I like killing people. Yeah, sort of. I was like, okay, girl. You found yourself in hell. Spoiler alert. I know. Oh, yes. Spoilers. Oh, yeah. We should say that before. Sorry, America and anyone listening in another country. I want to fight for a spoiler warning. I think it's kind of like inherent to do with a review podcast. But over time, we have just learned that we're talking about everything. Yeah. And we're bitching about everything, too. Mm-hmm. And we're gossiping. Mm-hmm. And inevitably, in that, we're going to have spoilers. So, yeah. If you haven't watched the episode, we encourage you to go watch it. If you don't care about spoilers, we're going to continue on with our fun review. Yeah, and American Horror Story and Glee are both on Netflix, as is Scream Queens. And then Nip Tuck and is on FX on Hulu. So that's where you can watch those shows. Mm-hmm. And then Popular, you have to just figure it out or buy the DVD. You have to put on your pirate hat and just kidding. We don't do that. No. Okay, so then Addie is outside. I call her Addie because I also wrote down Addie too. I can't be doing that. I don't know how to spell that. So that she's outside, kind of just like in a trance, almost just looking at it, and then those 2 ginger twins pop up with their overalls and their bats and their bad attitude. Yeah. And then she tries to warn them by saying, "Don't go in there. You're gonna regret it." And they're like, "Fuck you. I have a bat." And I was like, "Okay, have fun in there." I hate this tree. I know. I had written that down too. It's like, I hate trees. It's like, ugh. You don't recycle already. You know? Weird flex, but okay. And then the twins enter the house together, and then we see that the inside is just as dilapidated as the outside, obviously. And we hear this lovely little creepy song as they start to just destroy the house with their bats. Yeah. It was a great song choice yet again. So they're destroying stuff, and then one of the twins notices a dead possum that has fresh blood and is still breathing, but it was murdered in the hallway while they were upstairs. Okay, I didn't pick up on that. So it's creepy to them because it's like, who the fuck just killed this thing, you know? And they both walk over and they're like, whoa, cool. And they see the blood is like freshly draining from its neck. That's when the basement door swings open. Classic horror trope. Yep. Come into the basement, the door's open. And they, you know, push each other to go down there. Yeah, so then they go down to the basement. They complain about it overall. And then Troy, one of the ginger twins, goes missing when they're trying to leave.
Yeah, we also see in the basement that it's filled with like medical experiments. It has jars with like dead babies and feet and ears and legs and all this other crazy stuff fermenting in these jars. So they're looking at that for the first time and they find it very creepy. And then, yeah, so then one of the twins, he's like, let's leave. It's gross down here. So he starts walking upstairs as the other twin walks away. Now, this is something that they use that I think is so genius.
What?
The whole time one of the twins is playing with those poppers, those snappers you throw on the ground and they make the pop sound.
Mm-hmm.
And that was his whole thing, like coming up to the house outside with Addie, in the house, he's popping them. Like he just has a bunch of them. And one of the coolest things is as the scared twin is walking up the stairs, the twin with the poppers is walking deeper into the dark basement and he goes out of camera view and we still hear the poppers and then they stop suddenly. And we no longer hear the poppers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the twin is like, Troy or whoever, I don't know which one they are. And that's when he goes to investigate because the popper sound stopped.
Oh, where was I during this? Because I don't even remember that. Because I do remember thinking, I'm like, wow, he went disappearing and you didn't hear like a
yeah.
You know, like sort of thing. But okay, so you were picking up on the poppers. I was like really looking at just. I like,
always pick up on the poppers, baby.
I was looking at other things like the interior. Oh God. So to go forward, so then yes, the other twin finds Troy, and I know it's Troy because he said Troy, and then Troy's throat is slit, blood everywhere, and then does the little monster guy pop out?
Yeah, and then we see the infantada for the first time.
Ooh, the infantada. So that's the name of the little monster that lives in the basement.
Yes.
That's a cool name, infantada.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like a baked potato or something, you know? Or like a expensive dish. I remember when we first watched this, we were like, what the fuck was that? You know? Like it was, because it really does break the tone of what has been established before to show this like crazy little monster thing.
Yeah.
And then to have them kill these kids too, it's like, whoa, this really, that really threw me for a loop.
And I think the actor that played the infantada, Benjamin Wolf, I think he died. Yeah, he died in 2015.
Oh, God bless.
So once we get out of the basement, the twins are both dead. We pull out of the house and we still see Addie outside staring at it. It's a very creepy shot. She's like, you're going to regret it. You're going to regret it. Mm-hmm. So it's a very good, creepy opening, and I love it.
But then it cuts to present day, and then we're introduced to Vivian Harmon at the gynecologist, I assume.
Sure.
Right? And then she's just talking about, this is kind of like a great character introduction for her. That's something that I noticed about this episode, that all characters kind of get like their fun little respectable moments.
Yeah, there's great introductions in this episode.
And you find out a lot about Vivian and just this few like interchanges between her and her doctor. You know, she is trying to take ownership of her body, she says, after having a seemingly, we just learned a little bit like some sort of a miscarriage. And then she also is like a very organic mom. She said, oh no, I don't like the side effects of plastic, you know, water bottles I don't let my kids use it, for instance.
Yeah.
And then we also find out that Connie has amazing hair. In one
Close on the hair.
In one scene, in one just sentences.
Yeah, she doesn't want to take the hormones the doctor is prescribing her since her miscarriage, because she just doesn't like medicine and she doesn't trust those kinds of things, and she's very natural and holistic. So we see that in her intro. And then she says Ben doesn't like blood, which I think is just like a little interesting character tidbit to throw in here, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I picked up on that too. Because there's just like it's like a little sprinkle of just like it's almost like a wink, but not winking too hard. Half wink.
Yeah. And then he forces the pills on her and says, take them, they'll help you. She takes the pills home. And when she gets home, she hears a noise in the house.
Oh, yeah.
She's assumingly all alone.
Well, and then it's snowy there too.
It's snowy because they're on the East Coast.
But we didn't know that yet.
We didn't know that yet, but they're on the East
Coast. The one
Coast.
thing really I liked about this scene is that Vivian did all the things that, you scream at the television when you watch a horror movie anyways. It's like she calls 911, she picks up a knife. Maybe you wouldn't go see what the noise is necessarily right away, but she picks up that knife. It's a very beautiful, like, modern house as well.
Yeah.
Just putting it out there.
Just side note.
She opens the door, and then you hear Ben just saying, like, oh, no, Viv.
Yeah.
And then he runs out, shirtless and presumably naked. Mm-hmm. And then she slices him with the knife. Ugh.
Yep. Right across the arm. He tries to stop her from leaving because she just caught him cheating on her. And that's our first intro to the Harmons, is Ben cheating on Vivian after we find out that she just had this traumatic experience. So Ben's not looking too good in our eyes right now.
No, definitely not.
But here's the thing. Had Ben been played by a different actor, I don't know that we would have still... Because I still kind of like Ben.
I agree with you.
He's played in a likable way, which I guess
a lot of times
we want.
This episode, I was comparing Julia and Sean again.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, Sean's just so not likable, but Dylan McDermott makes Ben, he's like a sex-driven psychiatrist guy who's cheating on his, he has things stacked against him, but I think it's like the way that the camera moves, and Dylan McDermott's overall charm that makes me go, oh, they're layered. Oh, I'll get into that later, but if Julia is like a sister image to Vivian has way more authority in her life or something. She just like takes charge, even though she's in this like weird situation. Yeah, I thought that was I think that's a good choice.
So after Vivian slices Ben, we cut to the intro, which one of the most iconic intros in television history for sure.
I think. What do you think it is? I think. When I was watching it the way I was watching it now, I'm like, I was more into the music than the visual for this specific intro.
I think it's both. I think it's a combination of how they did both of them.
I say that because the intros do change per season then. And then they have done a lot of interesting or wild or wacky things with the intros
But the music has pretty much stayed the same.
Yeah, except for Freak Show, they changed it to make it a little bit more circusy. They changed it for 1984, gave it some synth to it, or whatever.
And then Roanoke didn't really have one, right?
Yeah, no, it didn't have it. So, but these images, I was like, oh, okay, so it's like a lot of what we saw in the basement. So, still iconic either way. I'm not trying to take anything away from it.
I want to give a shout out to the theme music composers, Cesar Davila.
Oh, girl.
Of course, I can't pronounce them. I should have tried this before. Maybe it's Cesar, Davia Irizarry, Charlie Clouser, and Mac Quill.
Oh,
Quail?
Good job.
Something like that. Mac Quail is also one of the composers for the show in general. But those people did the iconic theme, so props to them.
Amazing.
Even though I butchered their name.
You tried.
I tried, and that's all that matters. Really.
Yeah, that's it.
So after the intro, we meet Thais's character, Violet, as they're driving to LA together, the family, Ben, Vivian, and Thais. How do I keep... Like, now, like, I'm impressed that you were impressed by me saying her name, so now I'm like, I just call her Thaisa.
We find out later that that's not even how you say it.
That's not even how you say it. For sure, it's not how you say it. But Violet, Ben, and Vivian are driving to LA to see a new house because they're moving there, I guess.
Yeah, they probably virtually toured or something.
Sure. And they get to the house, and we meet the realtor who... Love this bitch.
I know. I
don't know why.
Her. She looks like a realtor. And she's just like this little short woman who just does this on the side, but really doesn't care about you.
Yeah. Her name is Marcy. She's played by Christine Estabrook.
She also popped up in Hotel, the same character.
Yes. So they get to the house, and Violet sees it for the first time, and she's like, great, we're the Addams family now.
I know. The realtor has some funny lines, like when they're touring the house, and she's like, "This is original Tiffany's lighting," and then Vivian says gay, and she said, "What do you think?"
What do you think, honey?
I'm like, of course. I know. They're like, of course these bitches were gay. Look at that. Look at all this.
Yeah, and during the tour, she gives us a little information about the house, that it's a 1920s home, and, you know, that it's had previous owners, and she tells us that the previous owners before Ben and Vivian died in the house, a murder-suicide. And then Ben, they go into the kitchen, and Ben is like, Vivian's a great cook. And Vivian goes, yeah, Ben bought me cooking lessons for our anniversary. And the realtor goes, cooking lessons? How romantic.
I know, and I agree. I agree with her. It's like, okay.
The shade of it all.
It's kind of the way he said it, too. It's like, well, yeah, I kind of...
Well, just oblivious. He thinks he did something. Yeah.
I know. Which...
And then Vivian's little dog scurries off to the basement door, and she's yelping, and something obviously is pulling her to the basement.
Yeah, but then Violet's also pulled to that basement because she likes the macabre. Or macabre. Macabre. She likes the macabre.
The R is silent.
She goes... Thanks. She goes to the basement. She don't see anything in the basement, right? She just kind of
No, but we see like somebody watching her.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what it is. Kind of.
You can tell she senses that the basement is creepy, and she feels the energy here.
Sure.
And I think it's one of the things when they go upstairs and they discuss the murder-suicide, and Violet has already been in the basement and sensed that. She's like, fuck it, let's take it. She's like, this is creepy. I love it. You know?
Yeah. And they're like, she's like, I'll take it. We'll take it.
We'll take it.
And then, well, we have Ben and Vivian in the bedroom then kind of unpacking after they take it.
Literally unpacking and figuratively unpacking where they stand together for us.
Oh my
you know
God,
what I mean?
Thank God you're wearing your fake glasses. That sounded so authoritative.
Yeah, so they're unpacking the bedroom after you know, the moving crew's been moving them in all day. We see that quickly. And Ben, you know, pulls her aside and he starts lotioning up her arms. You know, you can clearly tell that there's still a rift here and there's still a divide. And, you know, Vivian's just not ready for it.
And she says that, like, you know, she's like, I gotta go downstairs and do XYZ. And then she's like, and then I think that this is a good sign that they have went to therapy before. Those two. Is that as she's leaving, she says, thank you. I know that you're trying. I am just not ready.
Yeah.
You know, like, because Ben is horny. That is like a big theme of him this episode.
Yeah, and I think he's just he's like a sex addict, right? He has to be.
Yeah, there's something there. His relationship with sex is like not the healthiest, and it seems obviously that he wants it. So he feels like he has done the work. I moved out here, all that stuff, and now he wants to fuck. And then she's just still like, you know, I'm not emotionally ready for it.
Yeah.
But then it's like, after she leaves, I kind of had this thought. I wanted to see what you thought. So it's like, if you were, I guess, Vivian, would you stay in that marriage? Because she leaves, she's on the whole other side of the country, and so she obviously stayed with him after finding him, etc.
Yeah.
So it's like, would you be Vivian in this situation? Like, would you go?
I hate cheaters. I don't think I could be with somebody who cheated on me, regardless. It's different if you have kids. It's different if you've been together for a really, really long time. It probably hurts more, too. But I just don't... I already have so many trust issues with people.
Oh, okay, I see.
That to see that actually broken, I think would hurt me too much to stay with somebody.
I got you.
Like, I would never cheat on anybody. Because I don't think that would feel great.
Well, can I ask you, so you've never cheated?
No.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I think, no, I agree. And I think that opinion is really valid. I have cheated, definitely, in my life. And even me thinking about how, like, the devastation of how it was previously would not be the same now. You know, like, I don't see cheating in the same sort of way. But then I was thinking as Vivian, like, that was actually a lot. It wasn't just like, hey, I went to a bar and I fucked this random girl. It's like, you know, like, he was having sex with his student too. Yeah. You know? So I don't know if I would have went if I was Vivian. I think that there's a lot of things stacked up against him.
I also think, you know, I mean, if we're breaking down, like, how I would process somebody cheating on me and what I would think I could get over and what I couldn't get over. I think fucking a student is something I can get over quicker than if it was somebody I knew or somebody I thought he might have actual feelings for.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I totally...
Like, if it was a random, precocious student and you just wanted to have, like, a hot fuck, I might be able to understand that eventually, you know?
Sure. Well, because then that's, like, almost if you want to, like, talk about... Because you're kind of saying it from more of the emotional side. It's like, you know, like, did you have an affair instead of a random fuck?
Exactly,
like, do you love this other person? And that's kind of how I feel about, you know, like, cheating now. Like, sex... It could be, you know, very watered down. It's just like, you know, whatever, sex is sex, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I would get touchy with the emotions too, because then we have to talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah, because if I'm really into that person, if I love them, if we're married, if we have kids, it's not going to be an easy, like, as much as I would like to think it would be, it's not going to be an easy, I'm just going to walk away from this situation now, I'm done with it. You know, it's a bigger conversation. It's are you not happy? Was this random? Was this just a weakness? Was this
true?
Am I not giving you enough? Like, there's so many questions to be answered, and it's like, you know, is this something that you're just going to do again? Is it a weakness that you're going to succumb to again?
That's a good question too.
Do we need to explore an open relationship, which I don't think I could also ever do because I'm too jealous of a person. There's just so many. I couldn't. That's why I was dating this guy and so into him, and you want an open relationship, and I was like, no, so we broke up.
You're like, no, you're all mine.
Yeah. Sorry, bitch.
You're like, I need all the attention. No, that makes sense. I think I wanted to know your opinion because obviously it's actually a really big theme in the episode too, and I don't really know where you stand because we never talked about cheating.
Yeah, no. We're gonna have a lot of first conversations on this show. And then the next shot after they have that cute little marriage scene in the bedroom is an infamous Violet shot.
Yeah.
It's Violet walking down the hallways on her first day of school, smoking a cigarette.
She's in LA too, so the schools are half outside.
Yeah, outside.
So she's like this. So and that beautiful little music, that intro that she has too. I love that. And then she gets picked on by those mean girls. It's a really fast scene.
Yeah.
And this was one of the things with American Horror Story I had never really seen prior to watching it, that these really crazy, intense, random, probably just minute scenes at a time. I think that the American Horror Story does this really well. Like this whole scene with Violet and the mean girl having words probably last a minute, if that. But the intensity and then just kind of like the plot point to that too is not being wasted. Like this was very streamlined.
Yeah, it's all connected to something that happens towards the end of the episode. So Violet's walking, she's smoking, and one of the mean girl, like, hipster bullies, they're like a weird LA version of a bully.
Yeah, right.
She's like, we passed an ordinance in this school that you cannot smoke in public places. Secondhand smoke kills, blah, 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 blah. And Violet's like, oh, I'm sorry, it's my first day, I didn't know. So she drops the cigarette and puts it out with her shoe. And she's like, now you're littering. And then the bully, like, tries to get her to eat the cigarette.
I know.
And Violet's like, bitch, I ain't about that. I'm from the East Coast.
No.
Okay, first of all. East Side all day. She doesn't say that, but it's in her actions.
It's her vibe. It's to say eat it, you know, and then that the main mean girl was really like intense, like maybe overacting.
For
or
sure.
Just her character was intense.
It was her first role on television, Andrew. Leave her alone.
I don't care that her dad was the PA and she has some nepotism that got her
If her dad
that
was
role.
the PA, that's not a role you get jobs from.
Be like, put my daughter in. Put her in. she can't
Why are
drop
you a
off
PA
lunch.
with a daughter? That's the lowest job on set.
I don't know. I don't know what PA stands for.
We'll learn. We'll have a whole episode where I go through crew hierarchy.
And then I'll just be like, oh, okay.
Director.
All right, cool. Special episode. Well, then Violet ends up just like spitting in her face.
Yeah, and then runs off. And the girl goes, she shouts that she's dead.
You're dead. I'm the mean hipster LA bully. This ain't your Stephen King bullies.
Here's the thing I want to say about this scene that I think is something that's interesting, and maybe I'm overthinking it or overanalyzing it. And if you truly haven't seen the first season of American Horror Story, skip the next like 30 seconds. Because this is a bigger spoiler.
Okay.
One that actually was like the most mind-blowing spoiler, I think,
I know what you're gonna
any
say.
season of American Horror Story for sure.
For sure.
And I think this scene hints at this revelation, because it's a huge moment where, this is the part where you skip, she shouts to Violet as Violet's running away, "You're dead." Really loudly and really like overacting, as you said.
Yeah.
Is that the hint where later on we find out when Violet is dead?
Well, yeah, because then she gets the drugs from her. She gets
That's right.
drugs that she overdoses on. Oh, my dog's had a reaction to that too. Yeah, she gets the drugs from her. Remember, they went to some random whatever skateboarding park, and she gets some drugs. So yeah, maybe that is the foreshadowing. You're right.
I thought that was interesting.
No, good point. I didn't pick up on that.
And maybe I'm just overthinking it, but I thought that was like an interesting nod, because obviously it's something they had to have known at that point. And maybe, I thought it was cute. But from this cute scene, we go into an iconic scene again, where we meet Jessica Lange.
Yep. So, yeah, Vivian is just in her house at this point, taking down the wallpaper and exposing really kind of amazing, scary art that are painted on the walls.
The gays put wallpaper over this beautiful satanic mural that was covering the living room. And Vivian's taking it down. To their credit,
wallpaper is obviously necessary at that point. But and then Addie's there, and she says, "You're going to die in here." And then she's like, "What are you doing in my house?" Boom. Here she comes. Miss Jessica Lange.
Constance Langdon has joined the chat. She's in the building.
She has read the receipts. She is in it.
Yeah, so Addie walks in the house, and we find out throughout the episode that Addie is attracted to this house. Obviously, we saw that in the intro when she was just staring at it. But she also has an affinity to break into the home. Not break into it. I'm sure she just walks through the door. But she's drawn to this home. And we find out later there's reasons why. But so she just appears in the living room while Vivian's working on this mural and scares her. And then Constance runs in. We find out that Addie is Constance's daughter.
Yep.
And this whole run of dialogue, I know it's trying to like make it's building, this whole run of her monologue is building who Constance is for us.
Yeah.
But this is definitely the run of the most problematic stuff in the episode, I think.
I agree with you. Yeah, that's what I had written down too. Because we learn so much about Constance, and then she says, and we learn that she's Southern. We learn
she's from Virginia.
I know. And then she says,
That girl is a monster. I love her, and I'm a good Christian, but Jesus H. Christ. If they'd invented some of those tests a few years ago, I would have.
How'd you get into my house?
You left your back door open.
Are you Southern?
Proud Virginia. The old Dominion, born and bred. Thank you for noticing. I came out here to be a movie star. Did the screen tests and everything. But nudity was the big deal then. The morals were just beginning to collapse, and I wasn't about to have my green pasture flash 70 feet high for every man, woman, and child to see. And soon after came the Mongoloid, and of course I couldn't work after that.
And then she steals Vivian's silverware and pockets that when Vivian's not looking. God. So really, she just comes in and she just railroads Vivian. She just enters the scene and just talks and talks and talks and talks and talks, and we find out all this exposition about her in a way that only Jessica Lange can deliver that isn't boring.
Oh God, I know.
And then at the end, as she's leaving,
I don't remember your name.
Right, no, I never got a chance to tell you my name.
Oh.
My name is Vivian Harmon.
Anyway.
She's like, all right, bye.
And then she gives her some sage and tells her to clean the spirits of the house because there's a lot of bad memories in there. So that's our intro to Jessica Lange and Constance Langdon as a character.
Well, let me tell you, this is the first time that I had ever seen Jessica Lange that I could be fully aware of. And when she walked into the scene, my gay tingles went everywhere. She just immediately was just like
the hair, the dress, the style, the swagger.
Oh God, it's like she was just smoking a cig, but not even.
Yeah.
And she owned. It was just line after line after line, and this was just this is a great way of like seeing Ryan's writing abilities. You know, just like how he can make women specifically just shoot it off after one, and then the way that Jessica Lange delivers lines.
Yeah.
She growls through a scene, and she did, and you're so right by saying she totally just like bulldozed Vivian, but Vivian wasn't really even in the scene. It's her own house, but she just kind of stood there with her little thing, and then just let Jessica just be in her house and leave when she wanted to.
Yeah, which I think is important to the character too, because it shows how comfortable Constance is in their home, which is something we learn about later.
So right. Yeah.
But it's like, you know, this bitch has no, because Addie and her have no issues with being uncomfortable in this home or just walking in.
No, ma'am.
Because as much as Addie just showed up, Constance just walked in too. What if Addie wasn't in there? What if she was somewhere else?
She stays walking in. No, they don't even.
They all do.
Either they don't lock the door, or everyone has a key.
Yeah.
Because people be in that house. But Vivian does use the sage that Constance gave her, because I feel like by this point Vivian probably feels that there's something going on too.
So Vivian sages the house, and then she goes up to the attic to sage, and this is where we discover the leather suit.
Yeah.
And she screams.
It is technically, not to get gay fetishy, it's a rubber suit.
Okay. Excuse me.
Well, and I only know this because that entity is called the Rubber Man.
Yes, it's true. Sorry.
You're a bad gay.
I'm very vanilla. I took my BDSM quiz.
There's no fetish in
vanilla. No fetish. So Ben comes upstairs because Vivian screams, and he sees the rubber suit as well, and she says, "Throw this out." So we cut to Ben throwing it into the trash can outside.
Yep.
And then we intro another character.
And then this is the first time we're introduced to Tate Langdon, but it took a while for me to get his name on the actual show. You know, but it's just Tate at this point. And this is his first time being in therapy with Ben. He's one of Ben's clients.
Yeah, I think they intentionally don't tell you who he is fully until later on.
Well, I didn't even get a name. You know, I was just kind of like, what the hell? Which is good because it's a good reveal.
Yeah.
Reveal. That's what she says on RuPaul.
Yeah, bad gay.
Reveal.
I've never watched an episode of RuPaul's Drag Race.
It's a Rupocalypse. She always just puts Ru in front of everything, and so that I can't say like she says reveal yourself with the lip sync assassins.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I know
God,
none
you're
of
such
this.
a bad gay. I know.
I've been to actual drag shows in LA all the time.
Oh my!
I've never watched RuPaul's Drag Race.
Can we watch one? What if that's a random special episode on here?
Is there one where like a Glee or American Horror Story cast member is a judge?
I'll find this shit. I will find it, and then we'll watch it, and then you will love it.
I feel like Darren Criss was probably a judge one season.
Oh, I could definitely see that.
The only thing I know about RuPaul is that Drag Race is obviously a show that stands on the backs of black drag queens, and the entire crew and writers are white.
Oh, okay.
That's all I know about RuPaul's Drag Race.
Is that like an LA
Look up
thing?
the photo. Look up the photo of them at the Emmys last year accepting the award. The entire stage is white except for RuPaul.
Oh, interesting.
And that's why I won't watch it, because white gays are toxic, especially the old ones.
Let me tell you, there's a lot of
I'm a white gay.
And I'm saying it.
And we're toxic.
A lot of things. RuPaul is not a saint in any sort of way. She consistently a lot of problematic things.
She's like fracking or something. There was like a headline. It was like RuPaul's fracking. I was like, what the fuck 21st century headline is this?
Well, Ru really don't care. She's just making her money off the, you know. So we'll get into that when we find out.
We got to be careful in case Ru listens.
She don't listen. She's on a ranch fracking.
So in meeting Tate, we find out that he is a pretty sick dude. Mm-hmm. He has some mental illness going on, for sure. He says things like he wants to kill people. He wants to prepare for mobile war. He kills people he likes in his fantasies.
Yeah.
He doesn't feel anything. He feels like he's helping to take them somewhere that's clean and new and bright. And, he's just going on, and we see flashes of him in a high school painted with like a skull on his face, and he's just walking through the school. Like, I think it's alluding to a school shooting. So we see that as he's talking to Ben and he's being therapized. Is that the word?
That's a word, I think.
And we cut that in with Violet cutting herself. In the bathroom,
right.
With a razor on her wrist.
So then that scene when he's kind of talking about, I don't know if it was like a fantasy or a dream, but I feel like, so Tate's walking down a high school with that Kill Bill whistle song. Like, I can't whistle. You can whistle, right?
Yeah.
It's like, do, 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 do. Whistle it.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that was it. And then, so it's a great pacing, and then he's walking with this skull makeup on. And I just remember, I don't know if it's iconic, but I remember that image was in the promos a lot for this season.
Yeah,
they
for
definitely
sure.
They definitely pushed that, and so I really remembered that part of it.
Because it's almost like each character has a Ryan Murphy close on the face walking down the hallway. Like, think about it. Like, Rachel Berry's one of her first shots is her storming down the hallway as she's heading to the principal's office after she sees Sandy touching the kid. Shout out Sandy. I'm gonna try and mention Sandy in every episode.
Be like, well, Sandy would never
Sandy's
be a part of the
character
OJ trial.
Sandy would have been absolutely a witness at the OJ trial. But yeah, he loves this shot of like these iconic, which they become iconic shots of these characters, that are just them like walking down a hallway and them just either close in on slow motion, or they're walking fast, or the camera's some sort of movement.
Yeah. No, you're right.
But like close on these characters' faces.
He loves a hallway.
He loves a good hallway.
Well, then after where it's cutting between Violet cutting herself in the therapy session, and then I guess because everybody's walking in the house, nobody cares about rules. Then Tate finds Violet cutting herself in the bathroom. Yes.
So two other things he mentions in the conversation with Ben is that his dad left him at a young age because his mother was cheating on was blowing the neighbor.
Oh, yes.
So he goes, he left me with a cocksucker, which is another just like Tateism that shows you who he is. So he says that there's just so much pain in this world. So you can see that this kid is troubled. And thank God he's going to therapy.
But with Ben as a therapist.
But with someone who's also troubled, therapizing him.
I know. It's like, oh.
But yes, then Tate finds Violet in the bathroom cutting herself, which Violet like, hey, close the door, maybe,
Yeah, like actually.
Yeah.
like actually close the door.
So he walks in on her, and he says, you need to cut vertically if you're trying to kill yourself. And also put a lock on the door. And then she's like, why are you in my house? And he shuts the door and walks away.
I don't know if this was a discussion they had a little bit later or they had during the therapy session. But then Tate says, like, when you cut yourself, he thinks, he quotes a Native American thing, like, when you cut yourself, they thought that they would let the spirits go free.
I think they talk about that later, but yeah.
And
he said, cutting yourself lets the bad spirits go free. So every month, a Native American tribe would cut themselves to release the bad spirits.
And I think he isn't like wrong in that, because actually, like, blood, I just listened to another podcast about this. Like, bloodletting was actually a thing a long time ago. Like, if you were sick, that's how George Washington died. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
So today to bring that up, I thought that was really smart on his choice for like this like young little person, even though it kind of comes off as the Native Americans thought, No,
I think it adds to like there's something, we can't put our finger on with this character, and everything he says in these few quick scenes where we meet him is intriguing. So after Tate leaves the house, we cut to later on, and Ben is sleepwalking naked to the fireplace.
Thank God he does.
Thank God he does.
He's naked so much in this episode, and let's just talk about like what we do every episode. Well, what I like to do every episode is, are they hot or not? And Dylan McDermott is serving Daddy this whole episode.
This is the hottest. This is peak hot for Dylan McDermott, I think.
For sure. Oh my God. Yeah. And then Ryan knows it too.
Yeah.
And the way he's directing.
Because it's been
all
9
of these
years
scenes.
since the show came out this season.
Wow, yeah.
So Dylan McDermott has to be in his 50s now.
Yeah,
Still
I mean,
very
just, like-
attractive.
Yeah,
but
for
this
sure.
is peak, like, body.
This is
ass.
is body yachty. Dilly McDermott daddy yaddy.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, what did I have in my notes here? Because I get all thirsty when I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah. This is 3
But
pages of your notes on Dylan McDermott's
I
butt.
just like butt shot.
Your dissertation.
Turns on fire. Probably burned a pube. Like those are my notes.
That sums up the scene. So we see that Ben is sleepwalking now, and he just happens to be naked as he does it. But he walks to the fireplace, lights a match, turns it on, and just stares at it. So it's a very creepy scene. We don't know that why he's sleepwalking. We don't know why he's drawn to the fire, but we get some answers, or at least some clues later on.
Ooh.
And then we enter Act 2. Take a seat. Put up your legs. We're in this bitch.
We're in
now.
Act 2, everyone.
We're in this bitch. You think like, oh, wow, this has been, we're an hour and 10 minutes into the show and we're only on Act 2. Things start flowing here, bitch. Okay? We start off Act 2 with introducing one of my favorite characters and one of my favorite actors in the Ryan Murphy troupe, Miss Frances Conroy playing Moira. Mm-hmm. The first TV Moira. Shout out Moira Rose.
Ooh. I see what you did there. It's actually great because I said this before to you that we're watching 6 Feet Under and Frances Conroy is in that.
Yep.
And she just plays like a completely different character than she does. Her sweet innocence is still obviously just kind of a part of her.
Yeah.
But to see Moira, and I'm like, oh, it started like picking up on things because I've been watching her in all these seasons in 6 Feet Under. She's like kind of just like a really innocent housewife sort of character over there. To her to be playing like Moira, it's like,
yeah. So Moira, we introduce her as the housekeeper. She's dressed in like, a housekeeper's outfit, a maid's outfit. She tells Vivian that she's been the housekeeper for years. She was the one that found the bodies of the previous gay couple that lived there. Mm-hmm. She says that, nobody could have got those stains out except me. So she's really trying to sell herself because Vivian's like, we don't need a maid. It's just us. I can maintain this house. And she's like, oh, yeah, bitch? What are you washing the floors with? And Vivian's like, Murphy's oil? She's like, scoff. Try vinegar. And right away, Vivian's like, ooh, I like that. It's more natural.
I know.
So she's starting to warm up to Moira. And Moira goes inside. She's like, can I call a cab and wait inside? Obviously a ploy to get her to stay so she can warm up a little more to her.
Yeah.
And it works. And she really her and Vivian start to have a little chill heart to heart. And Vivian asks her a question that I love. Sorry, I'm rambling, but I love Frances Conroy. She goes,
Can I ask you a personal question? Do you ever get tired of cleaning up other people's messes?
We're women. It's what we do. I just get paid for it.
And then after that, that's when Dylan McDermott walks in.
yeah, Ben comes to meet Moira.
Yeah, but then, interesting little twist. He don't see Moira as Frances Conroy. He sees her as Alexandra
Breckenridge?
Something. Breckenridge? Oh my god, I was almost right. Okay, yeah, Alexandra Breckenridge. I don't know if like the actress appears in Nip Tuck at some point. I feel like she does. But yeah, he sees like a young Moira almost.
Yeah, Moira transforms before his eyes.
Mm-hmm. Into this like hottie fetishy nurse. Or not nurse. Sorry, that's my fetish. That's
your fetish, bitch.
And then he's like, oh, hi, I haven't come in days.
Alexandra Breckenridge was not in Nip Tuck, but she was in other seasons of AHS as well.
Okay.
And so Ben walks in, sees young Moira, played by Alexandra, who is fucking a smoke show, and and she like says something casually, and then she like leaves. Right?
Yeah.
It's not much of her at this time, but Ben's obviously turned on immediately by her.
Well, Ben's like, you surprised me, because Vivian's like, we should hire her.
Yeah.
And Vivian seeing Francis.
Yeah.
And Ben seeing Alexandra. And so he's like, you surprise me every day. And then that's when I thought, I was like, Ben, you're so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Because you're putting no, you cannot hire a hot maid right now.
Yeah.
You just can't. You're not ready. You haven't come in days.
Yeah, you're not
can't.
ready.
No. And so, but he's like, all right, I like tempting myself, and it's like, well, you can't right now.
Yeah. Turn that shit off. Yeah, immediately, if I was him, I would have been like, we should probably not.
I'd be like, we need
But
to
he
talk
is
about this when she's
fucking
not right in front of us.
Happy. He's like, surprised me. And then they start kissing because he's so turned on by this maid.
I know, basically.
But she stops them again because Ben just keeps consistently trying to get laid by her. And he goes, you have to forgive me one day. It's like, she don't though, bitch. She does not.
No, she don't. But I have identified with being the person that has fucked up in the relationship, and I feel like I've actually said that line. I feel like other people have either said it or thought it too, because feelings obviously just don't heal.
Yeah.
And then you're like, look, I made the whole grocery list, and you don't want anything,
Yeah.
And so then I understood where he was coming from at this point.
Yeah, but still, she has total control over the situation, and it's really up to her if and when she wants to forgive him.
I guess, and forgiving and have sex. That's
which is
a lot
more, I
on
think, what
his
he cares about.
Mm-hmm.
And then we cut to a scene with Tate and Violet. Obviously, they've become friends now since he caught her trying to kill herself. And I think, obviously, if someone sees you trying to kill yourself, you might want to become friends with them, just in case, I guess. Or do you just never go see that person again?
Well, they're like, I feel you. We're showing off our scars, sort of thing.
So they're commiserating on the fact that they both tried to kill themselves. And then we find out that Vivian had a miscarriage. Violet confirms that in this conversation. Yeah. And they're playing music, and something interesting that Tate says, I mean, it's interesting once you know what it's kind of alluding to, but he asked for Kurt Cobain on the iPod, which I think is interesting on two different levels that we can discuss later. But Tate's a 90s kid,
One thing that I thought was interesting, and I'm glad that they put it in there, is that they have some sort of line about East Coast versus West Coast mentality. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things I always appreciated about you, and I guess us just both originating in the East Coast, is like that you and I have had full-on curse-out arguments, you know? And I feel like I've screamed at you, you've screamed at me. I don't think you've ever slapped me, because I would slap you back. The drama.
I would love a slap back,
But I always appreciated the honesty that I could exchange with you as a friend versus friends that I still have or have made recently, because I'm like, I can't be as honest.
Yeah.
Their feelings will get hurt.
Yep.
And it's like, well, then you just move on.
Yeah.
Then and I feel like fucking people can't do that.
Yeah.
That don't have an East Coast mentality for some reason. And
I think that
always troubles me.
That's something like, that's why I'm friends with people like you and like my closest friends back east, because you're the only people that can also fucking put me in my place and tell me when I'm being too much, or tell me when to pull back, or rein in my bitchiness or whatever. And you need that fucking friend. Like, every person needs that friend, and those are your true friends, and those are your long lasting friends. And you don't find many of those out here, I feel like.
I could see that. I don't know if Violet's gonna find many of those out there either. She seems very
she found Tate,
East Coast.
And they commiserate in the same way of the macabre and the dark, and nothing scares Violet and things like that. So,
the macabre.
While they're talking, Ben walks in and catches Tate in his daughter's bedroom, which obviously, this kid's a weirdo. So let's get him out of the house. So Ben kicks him out, and Tate goes, "What's that thing you say I'm afraid of? Rejection."
Oh God, I know.
And then storms out and screams. Up. This was something interesting though. When he storms out of the house, he doesn't storm out of the front door. I don't know if you noticed, but he goes back towards the basement.
Oh, I did not notice that. That's crazy.
And then we see.
Let me talk about
the next
this.
scene.
Let me talk.
I'm like, I know you want to do this one.
So then Zaddy Daddy Dilly McDermott comes out of the shower. And because he, in his first line out of the shower, towel, very, very, a little towel. It was actually just a hand towel was placed on his dick. And he's like, have you seen my razors? Ugh. Let's just bask in that for a second. Because Dylan McDermott looked great. I actually tried to screenshot that on my iPad.
And it went dark.
Like Google image is not real, but either way, it just went dark.
Yeah.
And then, so Ben's wet.
Yeah.
I am also wet.
We're all wet.
He just so happens to find Moira, young Moira, touching herself in the whatever office thing that he has over there.
Yep.
They make intense eye contact. I think I licked my lips. I don't know if Ben did, but I assume he did. And then this.
Yeah, he walks in and she's just fucking finger blasting herself on a fucking credenza or whatever the fuck.
We've all jerked off at work. Let's be honest. But then this is, I think, an iconic scene because I don't know if they've referenced this in the show or in somewhere else in pop culture, but then Ben jerks off and then starts crying in front of the window, basically.
Yeah, he rushes back to his bedroom and like slams the door and like starts jerking off and then starts crying and you see his ass again. But this is the thing, you brought this up last week too. You keep saying that this is an iconic scene for some reason. I think it's just like a wet fantasy for you. Because it's truly something I don't
what
really...
What did I say about last year or last season? Or wait, last... hold on. I'm attacked. Wait. Wait, what did I say last week? Or was it Nip Tuck?
No, it was during the Glee episode. It was, you said next week you would get to see Daddy Dylan jerk off and cry.
I did say that. I know. Well, okay.
And for a second I was like, when is that? And then I was like, oh yeah. But I forgot he cried.
I just hardly remember it, okay?
Hardly, yeah.
And then the scene ends weird and not hot like I would want it to be.
Yeah.
Because then he catches Dennis O'Hare playing Larry Harvey, watching him in the window.
Yeah.
And Dennis is very burnt. This is the first time we've seen him in the episode. It is very shocking.
Yeah. He's watching him from the yard, looking up into the bedroom window, and Ben freaks out, puts on pants, runs downstairs, and rushes out, and he's gone. So we're like, Is this another ghost? Who is this guy? You know?
I just want to let everyone know that Ben runs outside, and he has since put on a robe and underwear.
Yes, that's important to note for this going forward. We will update you on Ben's clothing in each scene going forward.
Stay tuned.
And then Addie is in the house again?
Yep. And then, because this is the thing with this show, it's just like, okay, that was a really crazy sequence of events. Like Ben walking out in a towel, he catches Moira jerking off, he jerks off, cries, and then fucking Dennis O'Hare watching him in the mirror, and then it's done. And then we move on really fast. It is fast.
This is the thing I love about this show, and specifically the first season. Actually, now that you brought this up, I'm just like, I'm thinking of how I felt watching it the first time and like what were my feelings, what was I really attracted to. And it was like, it's like an episode of Friends where all the friends are in the apartment at the same time, but there's still 3 different storylines. You know what I mean? Like a Thanksgiving episode of Friends has friends paired off in different pairings, and they're in 3 different parts of the apartment, or maybe in Joey's apartment cooking separately or whatever. But it's all the same story. So this is kind of what American Horror Story does with the murder house, because, you know, later we find out that the ghosts who live in the house can't leave the property. So everyone's trapped in this house kind of, but things are happening in different parts of the house, and some of those storylines aren't even connecting to the other storylines. It's just happening in the world, and we see that going on. And it's like these other characters are oblivious to these other characters' storylines except when they come together, you know?
No, it's very true.
And
they're juggling a lot here.
And that's what I think. I think it's like something that could easily be a negative, but they handle it so well in this series that it's actually a huge plus.
I agree, especially this season. Other American Horror Story seasons
don't carry the balls as well, but this season does it perfectly almost.
No. So then, Addie's in the house.
Yeah, so Vivian walks in the kitchen. She hears Addie laughing. She turns around, and she sees all the cabinets open in her kitchen. She walks over to Addie laughing, and Addie's right outside her door laughing at her, but Violet or Vivian thinks that Addie did all the cabinets, which obviously she didn't. So when Vivian's yelling at her, we see the twins, the murdered version of the twins, pop up behind.
Yeah,
Vivian.
yeah, the murdered version.
Yeah.
Just kind of like pop up from behind, and then bam, cut to black.
Yep. And then we cut back into with Constance is now in the house, and Vivian is basically telling them both, like, stay the fuck out of my house. Like, Addie, you can't come in my house. And
It's
Ben's there
very
as well.
reasonable.
Yeah, it's a very reasonable request.
Ben is there. Well, he has shirt on.
Shirt on. Yes.
Serious
Ben.
on. He might be drinking coffee. I don't remember.
So yeah, she's like, stay out of my house. And she's like not getting it. Addie keeps saying, can I pet your dog? Can I pet your dog? Can I pet your dog?
I know.
And then Vivian, I'm going to keep confusing them the entire time we do this, Vivian and Violet. And then Vivian takes Addie's face in her hands and she's like,
can I pet your dog? No, Adelaide, listen to me. I want you to stop coming in here without permission. Am I clear?
Vivian.
Am I clear? Yes. Thank you.
Time to go, Addie.
Are you okay? She shouldn't have done that.
That was
she has
good
very
because
statement lines that are so fucking scary.
It was scary because it's like, well, what are you talking about? The dog? Are you talking about Vivian?
Yeah.
You know, and Constance is kind of like very closely watching this interaction the whole time.
And then as they're leaving, once Addie walks out the door, Constance turns back to Vivian and her face turns to angry Constance. And she gives that dramatic Jessica Lange read, the iconic read.
I know.
You touch my kid one more time and I will break your goddamn arm.
And you know what this really said to me? It's like, well, because it almost seems like, and it will play out through the season, that Constance doesn't like Addie and that she's a burden to her, and it gets more in depth. But so we initially, because she called her a mongrel.
A mongoloid.
A mongoloid in the previous scene. And then now she's here. And she's just like, you touch my kid again, I'm going to fucking break your arm. You know what I mean? And so it's just like the fierceness of her as a mother.
As a mama bear.
With her, you know what I mean? I was like, yes. Ugh,
it's
good.
such a weird, even throughout this season and then into Apocalypse as well, it's weird to see that dynamic of her as a mother. She really struggles with the line of, does she want to be a good mother, or is she just dealing with the burden of these kids and doing her responsibility? And it's like at times she's a really good mom, at times she's a piece of shit, but she it's just something she struggles with. I don't know if I would say she's a good mom. I don't know if I would say she was a bad mom. It's just something, the duality of those two things is something she struggles with.
Yeah, she definitely does. But Eric, we can't judge her because we're not mothers.
Oh, one day. And then Ben tries to report Tate.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I need to get this fucking kid out of my life. So he tries to report him to the police because he's a threat to his and others' well-being. But the police seem to be giving him a runaround.
Yep. And
then Moira comes in while he's working in his study. And she's like, I have to clean this room now or it won't get done till Monday. And it's like, bitch, this room is not even dirty. But whatever. Ben lets her dust.
Uh-huh. And then it's so funny because she's like, she comes in and then it seems like visually the maid outfit changes. Like the Francis version of Moira is like long maid. And then this is like a Halloween costume of sexy maid, you know? And she's like, I have this full bucket of wet water. Let me drop this in front of you. But Ben falls into it.
Yep.
Ben is getting seduced at this point. It's a really interesting shot of him looking at her and she becomes blurry.
Yeah.
You know, and he just like, he's falling into whatever sort of mystique that she has.
Yep. And they start making out on the couch, and we hear a noise, and Ben turns and sees that Violet catches them. But Violet catches Ben and Frances Conroy, not Ben and Alexandra.
Yeah,
so that's something interesting. So it's like even weirder for her that Ben's hooking up with the old maid.
Yeah, I know. She's like, "You're a sex addict, Dad. You are."
But we never really go back to that. I feel like he runs after her.
It actually was dropped,
and then it's just something that Violet lives with.
Yeah, because there's a scene later where they're actually discussing, her and her mom are discussing the move, and she could have said something there, but she just doesn't.
Yep. So then we cut to Violet fighting that school bully. She gets into like a
really
fist fight
quick
with her.
Scene. Burns her hands with her cigarette. Get it?
And then we cut to Vivian.
She's taking down the wallpaper.
Yes.
Still. And then Ben comes in. He's pulling I'm a psychiatrist. I'm analyzing the wallpaper. Or the mural that's underneath the wallpaper.
Yeah, some bullshit about like people in art wanting to do the opposite of their fears or something like that.
Something. But then basically, as Ben does, he just tries to, have sex with Vivian there. I know. He's just like, hey, we're having an intimate moment. This has to lead to sex. And as a person in a relationship, that shit happens too. And I'll own it. But it's like, sometimes you can just have an intimate relationship without an intimate moment without a boner.
Yeah.
Like, just deal with the boner, put it away, put it in me.
Put it somewhere else. Yeah, so he tries again and again. Vivian says no. And this time he blows up. This time he's angry.
Yeah.
But again, he has no ground to stand on, in my opinion. You don't get to decide when somebody you hurt gets over it. I will say there is a time, cut the line or reel it in, Don't drag on somebody. If you're not going to ever forgive them, then just end it, But again, clearly she wants to give it a shot. She's just trying to figure out how to make it work. So shut the fuck up, Ben, and go jerk off and cry again.
Again, another amazing couples fight in a pilot episode. That is, but this was actually more intense, I think. They had a lot going on, and a lot was discussed, and a lot was revealed to us. She's, she said, you buried your feelings in a 21-year-old's pussy. Yeah. And we didn't necessarily know all of that. Mm-hmm. And then Ben, on his point, he's kind of saying, he's like, I needed you after this, and you got a dog. And I was like, oh, as a dog dad.
That's so funny that you would bring up that moment, because
why?
Who gives a fuck? What do you need her for? Like, you cheated. Oh, he's talking about the miscarriage too. But like,
but yeah,
But like, I can't.
I don't think it's right, because he's trying to own up to, like, I could tell you statistics of times that the man cheats after his wife has a miscarriage.
Yeah.
Like, he's trying to think like, listen, I fucked up, but I was in pain too, and you abandoned me, and you got a dog to do your own grieving.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to forgive you for having sex with one of your students. You want me to have sex with you? I can't even look at your face, Ben, without seeing the expression on it while you were pile driving her in our bed.
I screwed up! How many times do I have to say it? I'm sorry! I was hurting too!
Oh, I'm sorry. Did the life that was growing inside you die? And did you have to carry that around in your belly? The dead corpse of our baby son? Did you have to go into labor and deliver our child? Dead?
My son died too. My baby died too.
And you buried your sorrow in some 21-year-old's pussy.
I was there for you, Viv. I was patient and understanding and caring, and I put your feelings first.
My hero.
I love you. I moved across country for you. Because in all my life, the only thing I've been truly scared of is losing you, losing this family. Something horrible happened to us, and we handled it even more horribly. But this place is our second chance, babe. It's our second chance. But I just need to know that you want it too.
And then she just starts hitting him.
Yeah, she got physical at the end.
So she just starts hitting him against the chest and his arms and just pushing him away from her. And that turns into hot sex. As it
and you know
does.
I know, I'm like, I wish. I wish. I wish a hot... My fights, I had written that down. I'm like, I try not to like have crazy ass fights with people I'm in the relationship with, you know, or like with Eric, because I cannot tone it down, you know? I can't get into that sort of a fight and then just fuck. Even though I would like to. Yeah. I would like to end it like that, but I need at least 10 and maybe the shower.
Yeah. You hit anger very quickly. It's hard for you to get angry, but once you pass the threshold, you hit the max very quickly.
That's very true. I'm very Puerto Rican. So.
Yep. That's what it boils down to. So after that hot sex scene, we jump to Tate and Violet are talking about this bully. And Tate's like, we need to get this fucking bitch back. And Violet's like, oh, she's a cokehead. And Tate's like, get her to the house. We'll promise her drugs. And then we'll just scare the fuck out of her. And Violet's like, yeah, strobe lights and fog. And Tate's like, nah, helter skelter, bitch. We about to fuck this bitch's life up.
Yeah, basically. Like Tate's real into it real fast.
Yeah. So Violet's like, okay, cool. I'll get her to the house and, we'll scare her. And then we have another fun hot scene.
What do you mean? Oh, yeah, because then it jumps to the Rubber Man.
The Rubber Man returns. So the Rubber Man, and presumably Dylan McDermott's character, dressed as the Rubber Man, walks into the bedroom as Vivian's getting ready for bed. And she's like very into it. She's like, I can be kinky. She's like, you want to go around too? So clearly she's like reconciled a little bit with what they've been going through. And then Rubber Man just starts fucking her.
I know. And we don't know as an audience yet who it is.
We don't.
But then it cuts to Ben lighting a fire again.
Yeah, so Ben turns the stove on and starts putting his hand over it. So this time we see he's trying to actually burn himself.
So then that's simultaneously happening as Vivian is having sex with Rubber Man. So it's like, well, is it two people? Is he being, is it two different people? Is he in two places at one time?
Is it a fantasy? Is he not really dreaming? Yeah. What's going on? But, I would think they want you to think it's not him, right?
Yeah, because then they had that close-up of his eyes.
Yeah.
That didn't seem like, that's not Dylan McDermott's blue eyes. I don't know what eyes color he has, actually.
So then, while Ben is holding his hand over the fire and Vivian's getting railed, that was so crass.
I don't think that I would say railed, because it's actually ends up being a rape, because it is not.
Okay, first of all, don't make me a rape sympathizer with your words right now.
No, but it is. She doesn't know who it is. She thinks it's her husband, but it's not.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. It's an assault.
So it's actually like, a weird thing. So,
and she doesn't look like she's liking it. She looks like she's in pain.
She ended up, not being into it at the end. You can kind of see she's just like, whoa, something's not right here.
Yeah. Because I'd imagine if you had the same penis inside of you for 15 years, when it's not that penis, right?
Be like, this dick is girthier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you would know.
Why is it not hitting me as far? So with Ben has his hand over the fire, Constance walks in and she takes his hand away and she's like, not yet. She's like, enjoy the house.
I'm in the house again. It's
okay. Yeah. I knew you'd be here.
You're just in a daze.
So then Ben goes back to bed in like this trance, and he lays down next to Vivian, and she says, "I love you," and he says, "I love you too," and it's very like monotone and weird.
Well, because they're both basically in a trance. Like Vivian doesn't know kind of what she just experienced, and then Ben is like kind of in a daze at this point, kind of dreamlike. Yeah. And so they're both on these opposite sides of their journeys, and then they're just sitting there like kind of defaulting to saying I love you.
Yeah. And then somewhere else in the house, unbeknownst to the parents,
right? I thought the same thing during this episode too. I was like, okay, so this is all taken at the same time. Okay.
Well, I would think this would be the next day, but the bully comes over with the promise of drugs. Violet takes her to the basement, turns on the light. Tate's sitting there in a chair, and she's like, what the fuck is this weirdo doing?
Tate is sitting there with a shirt that says "Normal people scared me."
Mm-hmm. Iconic shirt now.
Iconic is the
Iconic.
word of the episode. And then, so then things start getting really intense really fast.
Mm-hmm.
That girl is a good screamer. The mean girl is a good screamer.
Yeah.
With her overacting. She's like, I could scream at least.
Yeah. Ryan's like, fine.
Okay, girl. PA's daughter.
So the lights start flickering. Tate starts screaming all this shit, and then we see flashes of the Infantata again, and the Infantata grabs her, and Tate grabs her, and then Violet kind of sees what's going on, and she's like, what the fuck was that thing? And then the girl gets scratched, and she runs out screaming.
Yeah, that's pretty much what... Well, because, I don't know, did we describe the Infantata to the people?
No, but you can go ahead and do that.
Google it. Infantata.
Yeah, I did Google it earlier, and it is the only thing that comes up is this character.
But it's a weird, very short, sharp teeth and with claws, and then the claws like fully dig into Bad Girl's cheeks when she's on the floor, and I was like, woof. So she runs out, and then Violet's like, what? And Tate said she ran into a wall.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, okay.
She's like, nah, I saw that shit, bro. And he's like, no. And then she runs, and then she's like, get out. She's like, she gets scared, you know?
Yeah, she got
scared. So she pushes Tate away. She's like, get out. I never want to see you again. And then she runs upstairs, and Tate screams, I thought you weren't afraid of anything. And it's like, bitch, a lot just happened here. Of course I'm going to be afraid of what the fuck I just saw.
Yeah, for sure.
Who or what was that? Where did they come from? Where did they go? You know?
Yeah, where did they go? Are they still in the house? Is that thing still here? And it's like, well, they obviously have like this mutual shared like darkness that Tate is really gravitated towards with her, but Violet ain't there yet.
Yeah. So then we cut to Ben. He's on a run through LA. We see that he's followed by Larry, the burned guy, again.
Yeah. And somehow Larry's keeping up with him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Larry is a runner, burn lungs and all.
Dylan McDermott has all clothes on. He's not a shirtless runner.
But he is sweaty.
He is sweaty.
So there's that.
So then Larry ends up catching up to him, and he's like, what are you doing? Sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then they have a quiet conversation.
Yeah, he's like, why are you following me? What do you stay the fuck away from my house? Everyone loves this house.
Yeah, it's true. You're right. Everyone has this, like, previous people who have lived there, whatever, have a real, like, taste for it.
Yeah. So Larry, they have a calm conversation. Larry tells him, I used to live in that house. I killed my wife. I killed my 2 kids. I set the place on fire. That's how he got the burns. And we're like, this guy's crazy. Obviously, this guy's weird. But then he's like, have you started sleepwalking or hallucinating? And we're like, oh, yeah, he has been doing that. So now we know Larry is kind of legit here in what he's saying. But he's like, you need to get your family out of there. You're all going to die if you don't get out of this house. And Ben reacts like a little bitch. And just yells at him and is like, stay away from my family. And then runs off.
Yeah, because Ben has his therapist hat on. And
yeah.
He's like, no, I don't believe anything like that. It's funny with Larry because we get a whole origin story for him in like a minute.
Yeah.
You know, flashbacks and all.
Yeah.
And I thought that was great because he was really startling when you first see him. Mm-hmm. And then to see him again, you're like, oh, all right.
Yeah. But yeah, so he says he killed them, but he's out of jail because he has a brain tumor and he's going to die soon from that. So there's no point in calling the cops on him because they're not going to put him in jail.
Oh, you're right.
So I guess that's important to know. But then Ben, just runs off screaming and stay away from my house. And then we cut to this penultimate scene of the episode.
Yeah.
I say penultimate because now it's our 2 queens together in a room, in a scene. And they're actually friends in real life, so I love that they get to do like this fun character dynamic in this first season.
I just love them 2 together.
Constance is going through Vivian's jewelry in her room and like basically plotting what to steal.
I know.
In the house
Constance
again.
Is literally just in the house looking for things to steal.
And then Moira walks in and catches her and says, "That's the madam's jewelry. Put it back."
And then she said, what is Jessica Lange say? She's like,
I'd be nervous if I were you too. When things go missing, they always blame the new maid. Don't make me kill you again.
So we could see that there's two things happening in this scene. One, we see that they have a history, and two, we kind of see their cloaks drop a little bit more as to who they really are, you know?
Very true.
Which is, I think, an important placement in this episode because it lets us know that these characters are much more than we thought they were in the initial scenes, you know? And we see the duality between Moira Young and Moira Old and kind of who they are as people, and they are different people. And we see more of who Constance really is. And then, of course, the backstory, which is we get a little sprinkling of that as Jessica Lange leaves the room. So this is where, obviously, it's confirmed that Moira's a ghost, and we learn that she's dead because of Constance.
I know, and then it just ends. That scene just ends.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh,
that's God. Just enough to wet my palate and be like, see you next week, bitch. See you next week. I know.
I want to just watch it this week.
I know.
Season 1. I just want to watch.
I laid in bed last night and I was like, oh, maybe I'll watch it. And I was like, no. I was like, okay, the new Pose is on Netflix. I'll watch that. I was like, no, I can't watch that either. Now I'm in such a Ryan Murphy mood, you know.
I know. So
I'm hungry for it. So that's good. But then we get to the very last scene, and it's Ben in the kitchen, and Vivian walks in, and she's like, what do you want for dinner? And he's like, I don't care. What do you want? And she's like, I'll have Indian. And he goes,
what does that mean?
That means a lot to them, Andrew. He says, Indian food? I thought you only liked that when you were pregnant. And then she smiles.
And she's like, I am pregnant.
And
then
mic
it
drop.
Just... Yep, and then
they hug, but then we're like, you know, whose baby is it? Is it Ben's? Is it this rubber man's?
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot going on that each of these characters don't know, which is always my favorite thing when we know more than the characters. And so it ends on a few different cliffhangers. Definitely a bunch of, relationships came apart and separated, and it leaves us in a very hungry mood for next week.
For sure. I agree with that.
But that's it. That's the whole episode. What a fucking amazing pilot. Obviously peak really? Ryan Murphy.
For sure. Peak
Ryan Murphy, yeah.
I think.
Really, yeah.
This was a big flex for him, I think.
Yeah. I'm glad and American Horror Stories picked up through season 13 or season 12, I think. 10, 11, 12.
Yeah, I think
through
maybe
2022.
12.
Yeah.
With American Horror Stories.
Yeah, also coming.
Just like, well, I think overall definitely peak Ryan Murphy. I mean, to go back to the intros, you remember how we were saying that the pilot intros are all fucked up and weird or non-existent?
Yes.
This one nailed it right off the bat and became something that is the franchise is known for.
Yep.
I think the characters are written here with such weight.
Yep.
Compared to his other pilots, even Glee, I think, because there's so much mystery behind them.
Yeah.
That we're really into, especially if you put against like Vivian and Ben versus Julia and Sean as far as like a couple in trouble or a marriage in trouble goes. Like there's so much more weight for these characters.
Yeah.
And then you root for them in this horror sort of setting too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great.
And you get scared for them. I get scared for Connie's hair. You know?
Stay away from that fire.
Not one out of place.
What do you think the most Ryan Murphy moment of the episode was?
I think Jessica Lange.
Period.
Introduction. Jessica Lange. Period. Next question. No, when she comes in and has that conversation with Vivian, probably.
I think I agree. That's definitely one of them. I think the music cues are also including the theme. I think the way they use music throughout and the way they use sound throughout this episode is very like Ryan Murphy and deliberate and stylized. And I think throughout American Horror Story, they have very specific and unique choices in the music they use. Each season has like a song where it's like, oh, that's that creepy song from, and it could just be a French song, but they turn it into something more than that. So I think that's always the Ryan Murphy moment in this show.
Ryan.
But Jessica Lange, any monologue she has is the Ryan Murphy moment as well.
Well, because then I think Jessica Lange is probably that scene is probably the most problematic as well. Because otherwise it was pretty simple. But what she says about Addie, it's kind of like,
yeah. Yeah.
You know.
So I'm excited to continue this series, obviously, even though I've seen it a bunch of times, and I'm sure we'll kind of spoil pieces here and there. We'll try not to, but it's hard because we love this show so much and we know it in and out. So, but I am excited to rediscover it. It has been a while since I watched it, and only 11 episodes to go. Because this is also the Halloween episodes. Oh my god!
Oh my god!
They're always so in the fun. early seasons of American Horror Story. The Halloween episodes.
Yeah, they were a thing. Good. They were completely a thing. But then next week we have The New Normal, which is going to be a very interesting dive.
Yes.
Because I've seen bits and pieces, and I love Nene Leakes. And then after The New Normal, it's Scream Queens?
Yeah.
Oh, God, fucking Scream Queens.
Yep.
I can't wait for that shit.
Yeah, the next two shows are going to be pretty goofy and funny. So I'm excited to dive into those. But then we get into like a serious run of shows.
Yeah, right?
And then we get into more campy and then, into the Netflix era, as we'll call it.
Ooh, yeah. Let's start it now. Netflix era, Ryan Murphy.
But next episode, The New Normal, a sitcom that aired for one season on NBC.
It was just one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was just one. NBC
so just 22 episodes.
NBC.
You heard it here first. Put that on a t-shirt.
Never pitch to NBC. They don't know what their brand is.
Well, thank you guys for listening. We hope you're enjoying the show so far. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe it. Tell your friends. Even if a friend is just a fan of one of these types of shows, they can just just listen to that one. That's why we're doing all of them. If you only like Feud, only listen to our Feud episodes.
Yeah, right.
Do whatever you want. But follow us on Instagram at The Ryan Murphy Project, and we will see you all next time.
All right, see you soon. Bye, Eric. I don't know how to end this. I don't know how to say goodbye.